statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Hello, welcome traders, welcome Bitcoiners, welcome supporters, welcome readers, welcome listeners, welcome haters, welcome to everyone. All right, I'm very glad to be able to do another one of these. I don't do these live spaces sessions as nearly as often as I'd like. I'd love to be able to touch base with you like this a lot more frequently. My schedule usually doesn't allow for that. But anyway, I'm very happy to be able to do this now. I'd like to take a little bit of time out with you to get some of your questions answered, to address some of the comments that have come across my feed as of late, and also to delve a little bit into a topic that I'd like to share with you. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with my live spaces, and I don't have many under my belt, to be honest with you, but I think it's noteworthy to understand that I don't conduct your traditional spaces session where I give you the mic and let you fumble around and listen to your background noise and try to make sure that everyone understands you. I just don't do that. I think that that's a bit cumbersome. That's just my opinion. And I'd rather hold a session where I do some talking. I touch upon a topic. I take some of your questions. You can ask me questions directly, which I'm glad to take, and there are no questions that are off limits. I believe it's just more productive that way. Now, if you are familiar with any of my prior sessions, what I like to do is I like to do a very brief, which sometimes is not all that brief, quite honestly. I'd like to do a monologue on a topic that has been on my mind as of late, and this live spaces session is going to be no different. All right, so I will start off our spaces session here by talking about this topic, and I think I did it correctly by putting the topic title in the header of the spaces. And it's what I want to talk about very briefly has very deep roots with me. It's something that I have learned through my near 4 decades of professional market experience, that you can be too early in anything. And that is just as detrimental as not being late or being late. So being too early is just as sinful in some respects, or just as detrimental as actually being late to an opportunity. And I've seen this repeat itself over and over again throughout my professional career. I've also sort of indirectly witnessed it through all of my delving into monetary history and things of that nature, that yes, there are a great deal of casualties in almost every space, any space that you can possibly imagine. There are great casualties in being too early in everything. So that's what I want to start off with. All right. I also think it's noteworthy to mention that I think one of my posts just went sort of mini viral. For whatever reason, I don't have truly viral posts, but this one was a mini viral one, I would say. And that one was surrounded with my number one holding in my stock portfolio for decades, guys, was Apple. And a lot of you seem to have liked that post. It struck a chord with some of you, and that's not surprising to me because Apple is the most successful company in the history of human mankind. It also is the most valuable asset on planet Earth outside of the asset class or the commodity called gold. So there is no single asset with a higher valuation than Apple outside of gold. There are asset classes that are, of course, enormously larger than gold, and I mean larger than Apple. I'm not talking specifically about asset classes. I'm talking about individual assets. There is no asset more valuable than Apple. So Apple has broke a variety of records in the human race. It has broken the valuation record for a single entity, a single item, a single asset, nearly $3 trillion. It's come off of its highs a bit. It's also the most successful company in the history of the world. And so Apple, having achieved that, holds a very coveted place. As a result of it being the most valuable asset on planet Earth, it is impossible for it not to also be the most owned asset on planet Earth. Now, this is something that I did not touch on in the small little thread that I put out that seems to have caught some attention here. What I wish I was able to do, I'm going to do right now. What a lot of people have missed is the fact that the world is short the upside of Bitcoin. Now, some of you might not be familiar with that term. It's a very common term in the financial space, being short, not just being short, but you're short the upside, which means that you're on the sidelines. So the world is largely still on the sidelines when it comes to Bitcoin, but the world is already in Apple. Apple is the most owned asset in the history of human mankind. This is something that can't be missed, traders, Bitcoiners. It's very important, which means that Apple is already oversaturated. Apple has more people inside of it than any other thing on the planet. Apple has more institutional sponsorship inside of it than any other asset on the planet. Apple has more family offices, more mutual funds, more individuals, more IRA accounts, more 401k plans. Apple has more governments that own it than any single other item on the planet Earth. This is very important. Now, why is Apple the most held, the most owned thing on the planet? Because it is the most valuable thing on the planet. In my business, in my space, you cannot not have exposure to the most valuable thing on the planet. Otherwise, you get eliminated. Otherwise, you get fired. You will never be fired for owning Apple. You may today be fired for owning Bitcoin, but you will never be fired from a financial position that is responsible for holding assets for profit and for gain. No one on planet Earth today will ever be fired for having Apple as a part of their overall portfolio or as a part of their overall strategy. So my point is this, that when you become the most valuable item on Earth, you have to also become the most owned item on Earth. They go hand in hand. Because you be justified in owning the 20th most valuable thing on Earth, but not the first one, or the 50th most valuable thing on Earth, but not the first one? You have to have exposure to the king. You have to have exposure to number one. This is why Apple is the most owned item the world has ever known. Now, my question to you is, if almost every institution on planet Earth worth their salt is already an owner of Apple, if almost every government that holds other foreign assets like stocks on their balance sheet are already in Apple, if almost every 401k plan, if almost every IRA plan, if almost every kid you know knows the name Apple, if almost, you follow what I'm saying, if Apple is already there, the long term, I am not talking about the short term, maybe not even the medium term, but this is not the time to be structuring a brand new long-term investment model or plan on Apple. It's already risen up the ropes. I've owned Apple as the largest position in my portfolio since 1998. 1998, actually the end of 1997 going into 1998. And it has been the largest portion of my portfolio. My traders will tell you this, that we have traded Apple every day we don't do it every day now, but for 18 years in a row, this was our number one go-to play every single day for short-term trading oriented gains. It was also at the core of mine in our wealth building portfolios. And we've always dealt with both. This has dominated our lives. This asset, Apple, has dominated our lives since the late 1990s. That's right. And I am telling you, as a long-term holder of Apple, as someone who was never shaken, never knocked off, as someone who saw the vision very early of Apple and prided myself on being almost a decade earlier than Warren Buffett, who got in, I believe, in 2000, no, almost 2 decades, who got in at 2015, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I am speaking from someone whose life has largely, or has in part been changed by this asset called Apple. And I am telling you that it is not the time to be constructing anything long-term in terms of wealth building from Apple's point of view. Now, one of the things I mentioned in the post, I'm sure that a lot of people aren't aware of the fact that the average lifespan of a company, the average lifespan of not a company, the average lifespan of a successful company. This is very important to understand. I did not give you the statistic in that post of a company. I gave you the average lifespan of a successful company, which is like 61 years. This is estimated to be 12 years in just 8 years from now. In 8 years from now, it is estimated that the average lifespan of a successful, not a company, that's far shorter in duration. A successful company will only be 12 years. You're going to get about a decade out of a successful company because the world changes every 8 months now. It used to change every 18 months. Every 8 months, you have a completely different world with different players, different technological innovations, different advantages that pop up, different skill sets that all of a sudden come into being. The world is rotating at warp speed. And by the year 2030, things will be changing so rapidly that a successful company's lifespan from birth to death will be 12 years if estimates hold. This is crazy. And so the landscape is going to become increasingly more difficult to find wealth building opportunities with things that have just a 12-year history, have a 12-year lifespan from birth to death. It's crazy when you think about that. And so, in my opinion, the wealth opportunities are going to be in things that sort of break the mold, things that are outside of the matrix, as you will, things that are outside of the box that don't have such a short lifespan. And of course, if you're here, you know I believe 1,000% that that is Bitcoin. Now, I believe that Bitcoin takes out Apple's valuation. I believe it takes out its valuation. I think it has a very good chance of taking out its valuation by this cycle. What I mean by this cycle, into 2025. So we are in a current cycle that basically ends, if you will. No, it doesn't end in 2005, but the bullish part of the cycle would tend to end in 2025. And so I believe that Bitcoin has fairly decent odds of taking out the valuation of Apple by the year 2025. That's a stone throws away. And if I'm right, all right, if I'm right, Bitcoin will take that spot where every single person, entity of significance will have to have some exposure to it. And this is just not going to flip on a dime. As Bitcoin, if and when Bitcoin climbs the ranks, guys, right? if and when Bitcoin climbs the ranks of and I'm going to try to post this here, the asset class list, the valuation list, right? It's going, see if I can do this. Huh. I don't know how to do it. But it's going to start happening before Bitcoin achieves that #1 spot under gold. So as Bitcoin climbs the ranks, it's already ranked the 13th most valuable asset on planet Earth. Guys, listen to me carefully. Bitcoin in less than 14 years has achieved the ranking of the 13th most valuable asset in the world. Number 13. As it becomes number 10, number 8, number 5, number 3, more and more of the world will have to adopt it, will have to hold it. You can't not have exposure to what starts eating the world. Not in my space, not in my profession, not in the financial arena. And so when I say Bitcoin is, the world is short the upside, it means that, you know, for those of you who are familiar with being in a short, when you're in a short position, you must buy to exit the position, right? That's being short. If you're short Bitcoin and Bitcoin starts going up, there's a point where you have to buy it. In fact, it's impossible not to be a buyer if you're short. So when I'm telling you that the world is short the upside of Bitcoin, there is no possible way that the world is not going to buy, because they're short. They're short the upside. As Bitcoin climbs up the ranks, more and more of the people that are short the upside will come on board to buy it. They have to. And when it's #1, almost everyone in the world has to. I don't write the rules. That's just the way it is. Now, with all of that being said, I do want to direct our attention just a bit to this main topic that I want to touch upon before I go to some of your questions, if there are any. I don't get many when I do these sessions. I guess I tired you out with my rants and things of that nature, but let me take some tea here. Uh-oh. I received a comment today. It wasn't in good spirits. It was meant to hurt me, but little do people know that tweets do not hurt me, or zeets, or whatever you call them. So knock yourself out. You can throw your most devastating bombs at me, and I'm telling you, they'll have zero effect. What I will try to do is use anything that you throw at me as a way of sending a message, my message. And I'm not saying that my message is right. I think it is. I believe it is. But it is my page, and it is my right to spread my message, and that's what I do. And I will try to use every single thing, even if it's rocks and stones and sticks. I'll try to use that to send a message. I'll try to also use that to send you a message, but every response that I do here is actually way more important for a reader of the response than it is to the person that I am sending the response to. So when I respond, I'm responding for people that might read that response a week from now, or an hour from now, or 3 hours from now. I am not necessarily, responding to the individual itself. So anyway, I received this comment today. I was trying to be nice to you, Oliver, but you're an a-hole, and you think you're smart, and you think that you've gotten into Bitcoin early. In fact, you're 13 years late I'm starting to doubt your acumen as a market player, as a seasoned market trader or market player, and something to that effect. And the message was, I think I'm early to Bitcoin. And the message from this individual is that I'm late. And this couldn't be further from the truth. And it got me thinking a bit. So I do thank this individual for sending that comment, because it got me thinking that this is something that I should talk about a bit. I have been in the financial world for over 4 decades, professionally 37 years. And I have seen this theme play out over and over again. I have seen great ideas come out too early, only to fail. I have seen companies that have launched products, innovative products, life-changing products that have life-changing capabilities that fail miserably and lose tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Why? Because they were too early. I've seen this being too early to something play out my whole life, my whole career. In fact, more things fail because more good things fail because they're too early than any other reason in existence. And not only is recent history filled with examples of this, ancient history with examples of it as well. And so examples such as and let me give you a few examples of this. Things like, I don't know, what was I thinking about earlier? Things like, I don't know, the car, Ford popularized mass production of the car. Most people I ask will tell me that Henry Ford was the creator of the car in the United States. No, the car was an invention a bit before Ford popularized the car through mass production, right? So it's a footnote in history. The people who, most of you would never know the name of the original inventor of the combustible engine driven car. And probably none of you do. I can't even pull up the name from history. But it's Henry Ford that looms large when it comes to the mass production of the car. It's not the first. Oftentimes, it's the second, and many other times, it's the third or fourth attempt at something that actually grabs the win. It's rarely, if ever, the first. Rarely. You can be too early. You can be too early. I remember laptops fitting this bill as well. I remember laptops being a colossal failure in the early to mid 1990s, only to become popularized again more in the 2000s. I remember when Microsoft tried the tablet and it just never stuck. And then many years later, Apple comes out with the iPad and it becomes the best selling electronic item. I think it was the best selling product ever in the history of mankind. But Microsoft tried it first. They were too early. Visionary, but too early. MySpace, what an amazing concept. Too early. It went by the wayside. Now, speaking of MySpace, there are people who are not very well versed in history that do claim that Bitcoin is sort of like the MySpace of the cryptocurrency space. These are individuals that really have no sense of history and have not really done even cursory work at the history of how the concept or the idea of cryptocurrency came into existence. Because if they had, they'd realize that Bitcoin is not the early one. Bitcoin is not the first attempt at a digital money. The concept is not even young. Bitcoin is an idea that has been thought about, that has been pondered, that has actually been worked on for over 100 years. In fact, the first person that we know, Nikola Tesla, had the first idea of Bitcoin. He envisioned a money that was backed by electricity in some way that would end all wars, because the wars would be basically a competition as to who could have the most energy backing their currency. And so he believed that that type of monetary system, where your money is backed by energy and not by tanks and machine guns and things of that nature, that type of money would end all wars. Nikola Tesla was envisioning Bitcoin. That's over 100 years ago. Ford died with a passion. Many people think that his passion his whole life was cars, but in fact, he died with the passion of his life, which was the idea of an energy-backed money as well, that would also generate world peace and solve a lot of the world's problems. Henry Ford, and you can look this up, I've posted it numerous times, was envisioning Bitcoin. Right? Back in 1989, I believe his name was David Chaum, came out with DigiCash, the first attempt at a digital money. Its problem was that it was centralized. It failed in 1989. Richard Branson, I think, came out with Flues in 1999 and had some measure of success, but that ultimately failed as well. The second big digital currency attempt. Some people actually put PayPal in that ultimate initial failure list all the way back in 1998, when Elon Musk was part of the forming of PayPal. Their idea was the idea of Bitcoin, a digital version of money that was outside of the system, not controlled by the banks. But PayPal failed. It didn't fail as a company. It failed at its original concept, which was closer to Bitcoin than what it is today. So some people add PayPal to that list of failures as well. And I think the last major failure in this regard was Liberty Reserve. Maybe I had that name wrong, but Liberty Reserve, which was founded in 2006. I think the founder was Arthur Budofsky or something like that. I can't remember. Don't hold me to these tiny details. But I do know that that was a failure that eventually went down after Bitcoin came into existence, by the way, if my memory serves me correctly. My point is, none of that really matters too much except to drive home one point. Bitcoin is far from the first attempt at a money that no one controls. Bitcoin is far from the first attempt at a cryptographical means of monetary exchange that's outside of the system. It is far from the first attempt. In fact, I believe that the success of Bitcoin was predicated on those failures. That whoever Satoshi Nakamoto was, whoever he, she, or they were, or it was, who knows if it's a time traveler from outer space or some alien somewhere, who knows? But whatever that Satoshi Nakamoto was, I believe that all of the attempts and all of the concepts from the past that date back over 100 years from today were incorporated to come up with the Immaculate Conception. Now, this is something that I've spoken about on numerous occasions, and those of you who've been with me for a while, you'll be very familiar with this concept. I am not of the school of thought that Bitcoin is an invention. I am of the school of thought that Bitcoin is a discovery because Bitcoin is the manifestation of digital scarcity. Digital scarcity cannot be created. And this is what I believe so many people who don't look deep enough fail to recognize. Listen to me carefully. Try to get this if you can. I'm sorry if I sound somewhat condescending because I'm always telling you, try to come on my level. Try to come up to my level. No, I'm not really. I'm sorry if I come across like that. It's just my passion. But listen carefully. I want you to get these words. And I know there's a percentage of you listening that this might resonate with. No, Providence has not given the human being the ability to create scarcity. I'm going to repeat that. We as a race, we as a living species, we are very capable. In fact, we're amongst the best in terms of capability and other living species, at least the living species that we're aware of. We're very capable. We're a very capable species. But one thing we are not capable of, one thing Providence has not given us, is the ability to create scarcity. We can adopt scarcity. We can recognize scarcity, but it is not in the power of man to create scarcity. Scarcity can only be discovered. Now, I'd like to take, and Bitcoin is the digital manifestation of scarcity. In fact, Bitcoin is the manifestation of the only scarce thing in the entire universe. We have been erroneously applying the concept of scarcity to other things that aren't scarce, like gold. Gold is not scarce. Can we listen, guys? I've been a gold bug my whole life up until 2021. I would say late 2020. I know my father was a gold bug, which pretty much made me a gold bug. I lived the gold bug life my whole life from a kid. And I will tell you, as a former gold bug, we need to stop saying that gold is scarce. Gold is not scarce. Gold is plentiful. Gold is abundant. Gold is virtually every single place in the knowable universe. It is in meteorites. God knows if it's probably on every single planet out there. It's under every single ocean. We haven't even begun looking for gold under ocean because we haven't finished looking for it on land yet. And the earth is 75% ocean. Guys, there's gold everywhere. What makes it a false scarcity is the fact that it's expensive to mine. That's different from true scarcity. Bitcoin is true, provable, mathematically provable scarcity. It's the first of its kind. It can never happen again. It's never existed before. True scarcity has never existed until Bitcoin came into existence. We had false scarcity. Gold is scarce because it's expensive to mine. It takes a lot of equipment. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. But that is a false scarcity because if you improve the technology to shorten the time, you'd start expanding the supply of gold. But I don't care what you do with your machinery when it comes to Bitcoin. I don't care how efficient your computers get, your machinery gets. I don't care how smart the engineers become. I don't care how powerful the supercomputers get. You can't mine more than 21 million Bitcoin ever. There will never be more. So I believe that too many people miss the fact that something truly spectacular happened with the birth of Bitcoin, that something happened as huge as the first person rubbing two sticks together in a hole in the ground and discovering fire. Now, the first person I can imagine, the first person rubbing two sticks together in a hole seeing the first remnants of the fire through smoke, and then fire emerges. That person didn't invent fire. That person discovered fire. But here's the thing. Once something is discovered, it can't ever be discovered again unless you're Christopher Columbus. That's the only exception. He discovered America when America was already habited, was already, that's the only exception. But barring Christopher Columbus, you can't discover something that has already been discovered. You can't discover it twice. This is why altcoins are BS. This is why there's no Bitcoin 2.0. There's no alternative. And I don't want the freaking alternative of something anyway. Give me the original. Who in their right minds want, I'll take the alternative. I'll take the alternative, please. I'll take the 5th best. I'll take the 6th best. I'll take the 10th best. I'll take the alternative. No, I don't want number 1. No, I don't want the real thing. I want the alternative, sir. All of these things are an attempt to create the internet 2.0. All of these things are an attempt to create, to rediscover fire. Discoveries happen once. Now, what you can do is you can build on top of the discovery. You can innovate with the discovery. The things we do with fire today versus the things we did with fire 5,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago. I think fire was discovered something like 6 million years ago. The things we do with fire today, we continue to innovate in terms of the ways we utilize fire today. You can innovate on top of the discovery. You can't duplicate the discovery. Bitcoin is not duplicatable. I'm going to repeat it. Bitcoin's not duplicatable because Bitcoin is the manifestation of a discovery. That discovery is true scarcity in the universe. Every other scarcity is a man-made scarcity, which makes it a false scarcity. True scarcity is not man-made. True scarcity can only be discovered. And so there you have it, guys. But before I go to your questions, I do want to finish up this one thing on you being too early, which is possible. So the idea that Bitcoin was not the early one, this is my point, all right? And so it's not the too early one. David Chaum's DigiCash was too early. The other attempts were too early. Bitcoin was discovered and came into existence at the right time. It wasn't too early. And that is why, from just a whisper, from just a thought, it magically, miraculously, just spurred from zero. Think about how special that is, guys. Create something and put it on the floor at zero. And how does it gain life from there? Think about that. Zero. How does something from zero gain life? How does it become a phenomena? How does it start from nothing? That is miraculous. There is nothing. There's no company that's come into existence that started from nothing. Yes, in a way, yes. What I'm talking about, a publicly traded company doesn't start from nothing. A shitcoin doesn't start from nothing, from zero. It is truly miraculous to have something start from nothing and gain a life. Not a false life given to it, but its own life. Bitcoin is not run or operated by a single human being on the planet. It runs itself. Bitcoin is a self-running protocol without any human intervention whatsoever. It's a living species, a new species, a different type of entity, one whom the human race has never seen the likes of before. It literally pays the human race to support it. It pays the human race to defend it. It pays the human race to give it energy. And it rewards the human race for its support. It rewards the human race, but it is not run, operated, or controlled by any human being. Yet, it's available to every human being on planet Earth. I am telling you, traders, I've never seen something like this ever in my entire career, my entire life. Neither have you. And some of you are missing the mark on this because you're just looking at it like it's another piece of tech. And that is a grave error. This is far and beyond just technology. Bitcoin is a discovery that will change the way we live, the way we work, the way we value things for the rest of humanity. And someone today was saying, well, Oliver, if the lifespan of a company is only 60 some odd years today and will be only 12 years in a few short years, isn't Bitcoin going to go the same route? No, because it's only man-made things that have that shortened lifespan. And it's only the corrupt system that actually continues to shorten the lives of innovative things. This is outside of the system. Bitcoin's outside of the system, nor is it in the hands of any human being. It will outlive every single human being for eternity. It will be present the same way gold, silver has been around for 9,000 years. Gold's been around for 6,000 years. Why? Because humans didn't make it and humans don't control it. They have co-opted it. That's very different, but they don't operate gold. They're not involved in the manufacture of gold. They're involved in the discovery of gold and the mining of gold, but they're not involved in its creation. They don't operate it that way. So this is outside of the operational power of the human race, which is why it can and will outlive the human race. Bitcoin will be with us, in my opinion, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And let me just say this. People say, well, you know, this gentleman felt like I'm coming in late at 13 years old. But I believe that he couldn't be further from the truth. It is true that I did not recognize Bitcoin in the beginning. It is true that I poo-pooed it back in 2017 when everybody wanted me to buy it at $18,000, $19,000 a coin after it had run up from 600. I poo-pooed it. Yes. And yes, it is true that I went all in March of 2020. Some might consider that late. I consider that early. In fact, I consider that time perfect. And I'll tell you why. It is perfect to me because I have come across and have become aware of so many early Bitcoiners who absolutely are not in Bitcoin today. In fact, I will tell you this, there are more people that were early adopters of Bitcoin and have no Bitcoin today and are completely out of Bitcoin than are from that era and are in Bitcoin and have Bitcoin. More people have left that adopted it early. More people got disheartened than that adopted it early. More people are poor today that adopted it early than are wealthy today because they adopted it early. Most Bitcoin OGs have zero Bitcoin today. You know why? Because they were too early. You know why? And we thank them for their service, but they were too early. They saw Bitcoin, they couldn't possibly see Bitcoin for what it became today, what it is today. They saw it, for instance, as a way to buy freaking hamburgers and hot dogs with sauerkraut and ketchup and mustard. that they relished in the idea that this was supposed to just be a payments network, but it's so much more. Not that it's not that. I'm saying that it's more than that. And so they missed the whole store of value part of the game, part of the evolution of the growth cycle of money. That you can't, they missed the fact that you can't jump straight. A real money can't jump straight to being a medium of exchange before it's a store of value. It must have a deep and long period of being a store of value before it can be a legitimate medium of exchange. But the early adopters wanted to overstep the store of value stage and go directly to the medium of exchange. I want this to be payments. I want this to buy burgers and hot dogs and cozy socks for my chimney in the wintertime. The silly things that Bitcoin were spent on back in the day were largely because people were very early. If I got into Bitcoin in 2011, 2012, and I put $1,000 into this thing and it went up to, I don't know, $1 million, I am telling you, as certain as night follows the day, I would be gone. I would be gone. 1,000 turns into 1 million or even turns into 100,000. Guys, I am telling you, you would see the bottom of my shoes. I'd be gone so fast. But today, because I wasn't that early, today I'm at a different, I see Bitcoin from a different vantage point. It is far more important than buying something for $1 and selling it to dupe, selling it for $2. This is freedom. For the first time, a money that we control, that I control, that no one else controls, an exit out of this system that forces me to give my life for someone else's coin that they call the US dollar or the Japanese yen or the Mexican peso. We are forced to work for another man's token. And they continue to take the token that we give our lives for and make it less honest and less honest. So we have to work more and more for their token. This is a form of financial slavery. And for the first time, we have a choice. For the first time, we have an out. We're coerced to give our lives for this, but we're not converse. We're conversed to give our lives for the token of the man, but we're not forced to give our lives for this token that we have total 100% control over. If you were to go to any person on planet Earth and ask them this question, if you had the choice of a money that is outside of the hands of the government, that they can't control, that is guaranteed to become more scarce every 4 years. And as a result of becoming more scarce every 4 years, that means it's guaranteed to become more valuable over every 4 years. A money that no one can take from you, steal from you, or debase, and that is totally yours. If you were to ask any human being on the planet that question, the only answer you would ever get back is, I want the one that I control, that is guaranteed to become more scarce every 4 years and therefore more valuable every 4 years, and the money that can't be stolen, confiscated, or debased. That's a 100% answer across. I don't care what language you speak. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what country you're from. I don't care what your height is, what your race, or what other letters you call yourselves. That's going to be the universal answer. And if you tell me that Bitcoin has gone from $0 to $69,000 at its peak, from $0 to $69,000 to become the most profitable, the best performing asset the world has ever seen, with only 0.03% of the world having adopted, if you don't think that more than 0.03% is going into Bitcoin, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what kind of level of IQ that is. I wouldn't even know how to respond that low to you. If you think that 0.03%, you think that number's going down, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. If you think that number is not going up, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. Now, if we went from 0 to 69 with 0.03%, then where are we at 1%? Where are we at 0.5%? Where are we at 3%, 5%, 10%, 30%, 60%? And this guy wants to say, I'm not early? That's low IQ. I'm sorry. Every single one of you would have died to get Apple when it was 14 years old, Microsoft when it was 14 years old. 14 years is a baby. You're not late. You're super early. We are front running the world. Do you understand? The whole world is short the upside. We're front running them. And the little tiny prices that you worry about now, oh, I'm going to wait for it to go down a little more, is absolutely freaking ridiculous. It's like worrying about whether it's going to be worth 2 cents or $1, or is whether it's going to be worth $2 or $1.98 in the future. We're too early to be preoccupied with the US dollar price. It's too early for that. How many people thought that they were doing a great job when they bought Amazon at $1.50 and sold it for $3? It's too early. You can be too early to start thinking about price. Now, I'm going to take a question, one that was written, and then anyone who's written a recent one, I'll be glad to take those. This question was, I can't remember who it came from, but this question was from someone who says, well, Oliver, if you don't really intend to sell Bitcoin, then how are you going to profit from it? And I get this question all the time. And sometimes let me just say that I understand the question, because we have always been exposed to a system where you give your life for the US dollar. The US dollar is not yours. It wasn't created by you. It doesn't belong to you. You're just forced to work for it. So you're taught to become educated so that you can earn more of this token. You are taught to work 9 to 5. You're taught to get a career. You're taught to try to get better and better so that you can earn more. So what you're doing is we've been taught to dedicate our lives to get this token called the US dollar. All right. And this token actually has become our measuring stick. So he or she with the most tokens is given a lot of respect. All right. With this token, we're to then take the token and buy the system's items: the home, the cars, the food, the clothing, the trips, the vacations, the whatever. So we're compelled to work for this token. We're also then compelled to use that token to buy the things that we need. But what the system says to you is that while you have to work for our token and no other token, and while you have to use our token to buy what you need, we're going to make sure that everything you need goes up in cost every single year, so that next year you have to work more for the same token. Every year, you will work more for the very same token. We're going to make sure that the token declines in value so that every year you have to work more to buy the same things you need. So if your steak dinner costs you 2 hours of time to earn, next year is going to cost you 3 hours of work to get your steak dinner. And the next year is going to cost you 4 hours of work to buy your steak dinner. And we're going to make sure that every single year, the things that you need to get with the token that we compel you to give your life for, to give your time for, to give your effort for, we're going to make sure that it goes up in price and that the token goes down in value, because this will ensure that you stay trapped in the system, working harder and harder and harder and longer for the very same things until you die. And then we're going to pass this system on to your offspring and their offspring and their offspring. And you will never be released. And this will never stop. That is what the systems has. And so we've been so indoctrinated that we must work to get dollars. I must invest to get dollars. I must buy Apple stock, then sell Apple stock to get dollars. I must buy a home and sell it later at a higher price to get dollars. We're taught and indoctrinated to get dollars. Well, I am saying, let's change that. We should be working, investing, trading, buying and selling things to get Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is not being debased. Bitcoin is not going down in value every 4 years. It's just the opposite. Bitcoin is not becoming more plentiful through monetary printing every single second. Bitcoin is becoming scarcer every single second. Bitcoin is guaranteed to become more valuable every 4 years. The dollar is guaranteed to become less valuable every 4 years. We have to switch what we work for. So if most people wouldn't fault someone for doing things for dollars and having the dollars on the side. But that somehow seems strange when you work for Bitcoin to get Bitcoin and you have Bitcoin on the side. Well, Oliver, when are you going to sell it? Like, no one would say, when am I going to sell my dollars? That's the thing that's going down. If I had $1 million in the bank sitting there, no one would say, well, when are you going to sell that? No one would say that. But if I have $1 million in Bitcoin, it's like, when are you going to sell that? Like, to what? Sell it back to dollars? Bitcoin is the freedom from dollars. Bitcoin is the freedom from the melting ice cube. Bitcoin is the freedom from the coercion to give my life for this token that I don't even want. Bitcoin is the freedom from my things that I need going up every single year of my life. They even tell you to your face that we're going to jack the prices up on you every year so that you have to work a little harder. Don't they say this to our faces? Don't they say, oh, well, we're striving for a 2% inflationary number? That's just fancy talk for we're going to jack the prices of everything across the board at least 2%, so that this year you got to work 2% harder, and the next year you got to work 2% harder for the same shit that you need this year. You're going to work harder every single year because we're going to maintain a 2% theft rate. This is so crazy that so many people don't see this, that so many people don't see that Bitcoin is the freedom from that. Just think, people, imagine if you had something that was guaranteed to become more scarce every 4 years of your life until you die, and even beyond your death, and mathematically guaranteed to become more valuable because it's more scarce every 4 years. It's so unbelievable because we have been trapped in the slave-like system for so long that we think that's the way it is. Do you realize that in the American slave system, back in the 1800s, that the vast majority of slaves did not want freedom? A lot of people don't know this about American slavery history. The majority, the vast majority, we're not talking like 60% wanted freedom, and 60% didn't want freedom, and 40%. No, like 98% of slaves did not want freedom. Freedom for what? Master gives us a home and we've got clothing. Master gives us the food. We got a place to live. If we're free, what are we going to do? How are we going to support ourselves? No, I'd rather stay here. And they would vilify those that preached freedom amongst the slaves. It's crazy. And this is what I see today in many people. Why do we need that, Oliver? Why do we need Bitcoin? Why do I need to be free from the system? Why do I need anything other than the US dollar? Failing to realize that it's melting your life away, that you're giving your life for it. You're giving your time for it. You're getting the dollar in exchange for the life you gave someone. And then that thing you can't hold, because if you hold it long enough, it's worth half. If the dollar represents your life and it's going down, then your life is going down. You're losing your life every second. Why? Because someone else is in control of the supply. And they can create more of it to make yours worth less. I don't want a money anymore that's in the hands of a single human being. I don't want it in the hands of a group. I don't want it in the hands of a single human being. I don't want a money that is controlled by human beings. I want a money that is provably scarce, that is not in the control of any human being on planet Earth, that is guaranteed to become more scarce every 4 years, and therefore more valuable every 4 years, forever. Give me that one. So no, I am not going to sell freedom to go back to slavery. Oliver, when are you going to sell your Bitcoin for dollars? Dude, I just left dollars for this. What are you talking about? I just got free. What, am I going to go back there? I'm going to go back to the plantation? Really? No, there is my book. There's never an intelligent moment to go back to slavery. There's never an intelligent moment to sell the thing that gets you free back to the thing you got freed from. Now, I do believe that services, and I'm even working on this, but services will proliferate that give you the ability to retain ownership of your Bitcoin and get anything in the world you want. I believe that the red carpet's going to be rolled out for Bitcoiners. I believe they're going to be the wealthiest group in the nation, in the world. Banks are already positioning themselves to custody Bitcoin to give you anything you want, any house, any car, any vacation, any yacht, anything you want. If you've got Bitcoin, you're going to be at the top of the food chain. Why? Because how can you not be holding the most valuable thing on planet Earth? If what I'm saying is correct, trust me, people will be knocking on your door to give you anything you want. Do you understand? Do you understand this? Do you understand that every bank will give you the VIP treatment? They will roll out the red carpet and start handing you things just to have you custody the most valuable asset in the planet with their bank. You won't have to sell your Bitcoin. You'll never have to sell your Bitcoin. The real estate moguls never have to sell their real estate, do they? Yet they live off of their real estate holdings for generation after generation after generation. They don't sell shit unless they get in trouble gambling or something like that. Their trophy properties don't get sold, yet their generations live at the top of life. Generation after generation after generation. This is the new apex property in the world. This is going to be the most owned property in the world, like we've discussed before. It is not going to be physical property anymore. This is going to be the most owned property, because how many people in the world can truly own property? What? 5%? 5% of the world's global population can own property. But how many people can own this property? 100%. 100% of people can own this property. And this is the better property. It can be carried with you at all times. It can't ever be taken from you. It can't be debased. And it's guaranteed to become more scarce and more valuable every 4 years. All right, guys. That's it. Let me see if anybody's asking any questions. I probably bored everybody to death here. Everybody's gone. Everybody's gone. I know it. Excuse me. I got every single questions from my man Calvin, unless I'm looking at something wrong. Calvin says, I think people are still stuck on the idea that digital assets are nothing. Little do people know is that Bitcoin is the first and only that offers the scarcity. Yes. It's really funny to me, Calvin, when you mention that people still don't get the fact that digital assets have value, yet they have watched their whole lives transform to the digital realm. Like we used to send mail through a guy on a pony. Took him days, if not weeks, to deliver a note. It's crazy. We used to lick disgusting glue on the back of an envelope and put a stamp of some dude I didn't even know on the envelope and mail it. Today, almost no one does that. Mail has been transmuted to the digital realm, and it is more ubiquitous in the digital realm. Mail is more voluminous in the digital realm. It's more ubiquitous. It's more available in the digital realm. It is used more in the digital realm. There is nothing in the digital realm that is smaller than what it replaces in the analog realm or the physical realm. Everything in the digital realm must be exponentially bigger. And so if gold is in the analog realm, the physical realm, then digital gold will be exponentially bigger and more valuable and more voluminous, right? It has to. There is never an instance where the digital replacement of an analog thing is smaller. Digitized music today, streaming music that you can't see, feel, or touch today, is more ubiquitous than music used to be on vinyl records, even on plastic CDs. You can give the world streaming music, but you can't give the whole world a plastic CD. It's more available, more ubiquitous, and more valuable in the digital realm. The value goes up exponentially in the digital realm. Its breadth, its use case expands exponentially in the digital world. There's more emails per minute than there's physical mail sent per minute. There's more music listened to digitally than music listened to within a cassette tape today, or a vinyl record, or a plastic CD. There's more phone calls that get switched over from network to network, country to country, through a digital switchboard than there was back in the day when you had women dressed in white shirts and black skirts sitting behind a wired board saying, "I'll transfer you, sir, to Atlanta, Georgia. Hold on, please." We've seen energy go to a physical form of energy to a digital form of energy called electricity that you can't feel, see, or touch most of the time. We've seen movies go from having to, the only way you could go see a movie is go physically to a building where they had a projector and a screen. It was the only way. Now, how many more people have access to movies digitally than going to the physical movie theater? We have watched virtually every single thing in our lives. Our photos, my mother used to frickin' bore the neighbors. Every single time they came over, she'd pull out the same 6 photo albums under the coffee table every single time. I would dash to my room out of embarrassment. She would pull out the same 6 albums and flip through the same old pictures. That's little Oliver with a baseball. Oh, and look at little Oliver over there in his cute little bathing suit. Ma! Every single time. Do you know my mother probably had 250 photos in those albums? Last I checked, I had 350,000 photos in just one of my phones. I've never touched them. They don't have physical reality, but they're valuable and they're there. The digital is the more valuable today. The digital is the more voluminous, the more ubiquitous, the more used today, and will forever be. And let's face it, isn't the most valuable things in our lives today, aren't they not physical? Love, honor, honesty, decency, justice, peace, joy, friendship. Oh, we may have the expressions of these things, but those things themselves have a priceless intrinsic value, yet you can't see them, touch them, feel them, smell them, or taste them. Our gods used to be physical. The vast majority of people on earth used to worship trinkets or statues or the sun or the wind or the ocean or the rain. Today, the vast majority of the people worship a God that can't be seen, touched, felt, seen, or tasted. But a God they believe and feel is far more valuable than a physical thing. Oh, what an error to believe that because something's not physical, it does not have value. I'm here to say that it has more value because it's not physical. Because in that realm, there is no theft. Because in the digital realm, there is no debasement. Because in the digital realm, there is no confiscation, there is no degradation, there is no debasement in the digital realm. And there is no problem with transferability in the digital realm. The same way love or peace or honor can stay with you every moment of your existence, your Bitcoin is with you every moment of your existence. It's the 12 words in your head. For the first time in a long time, the power has returned back to the word. Your Bitcoin is simply 12 words, 24 words if you choose. 12 is enough. Your Bitcoin is your word. Your Bitcoin is your bond. Your Bitcoin is your value. Those 12 words represent everything that you are and have done. In the beginning was the word. All right, guys. Scholar saying, how can I get into the Bitcoin club? Guys, yes, I do have a Bitcoin club. I open the doors every 6 months. I am afraid that the doors are closed. It was open for a couple days or a week or so a little while ago, but in the next 6 months, it'll be opened. And the reason why I do that, guys, is because it's so hard. So I take a group and we just, for 6 months, we just hunker down to become the best Bitcoiners we can be. We learn, we get a node operational, we get on the Lightning Network. So everybody runs a node. Everybody gets familiar with Lightning. We delve into multi-sig. We do all of the things that really make you truly self-sovereign. And it's hard to bring someone in the middle of the journey when we've already started. So I got to always do a 6 month period, boom, open, then a 6 month period, boom, open. And some people feel that that's enough. Some people do multiple 6 months, whatever. But anyway, I'm not here to sell you any of that. I've never attempted here to sell you anything other than just to say, just look, because what happened to me with Bitcoin is something I think is so special. I pray every single night of my life that it happens to you. It's that special. And that is my only message here. Just look. That's it. Just look. And I believe you won't be sorry. All right, guys. I love you to death. Thanks for attending these things here, guys. Inhodl says, hey, OV, I didn't see this one. I was naive in the early days and didn't know what was money. That's right. Since joining your Bitcoin club and going down the rabbit hole was a huge eye-opener. Thank you. I have family and friends around me that are still lost and clueless. Yes, it's very difficult. Sometimes, guys, silence is the way. At least for a while. It is challenging. This new way, this new thing is very challenging and can be almost depressing at times because you might have to sleep every single night with your enemy. The person you love the most might actually be right now your number one enemy when it comes to Bitcoin. The very people that you break bread with every single night, the people that you would give your life to for, they might be your greatest opponents, your greatest naysayers, and you have to live with them every single day. Sometimes silence is the only way for a while, but I don't think that that will last very long because Bitcoin is number go up technology. It is programmed to be such, and that it all's going to change. And I believe as close as 2025, that you will be hailed as a hero, in my opinion. You will be honored as being the one with the vision, the one that saw. You will be apologized to. You will be respected, and your kids' kids' kids will remember your name. I believe that with every fiber of my being. Now go to work. Go to work, guys. You know what the work is. Weekly buys, take what you don't need, move it into Bitcoin. What you don't need, that's the key. I know a lot of Bitcoiners joke and meme about, I have no chairs, I have no bed. I'm not really a big proponent. I'm not a big supporter of that. Live your life, live it well. But every person has something that they don't need, that they usually just blow or waste. That's all you need. That's all Bitcoin needs. That's all you need. Instead of buying that stupid shirt for $80 that has another dude's name on it, that he doesn't even know you, nor does he care about you, but you're going to give him $80, don't do that. Take that $80 and move that into Bitcoin. All right? My mother bought a home, her first home, by cutting out a Coca-Cola and a Snickers bar out of her diet every day until she had enough money to make a down payment on a home. That's what I'm talking about. It's stuff you don't need. Everybody has something they don't need. Everybody's wasting. Everybody's being careless. You can take that waste. You can take that carelessness. You can take that thing you don't need and put it into Bitcoin. You don't have to be poor. You don't have to sacrifice everything. A little will do. And it just might save your life and the lives of your family members in the future. You never know. All right. Ciao for now, guys. I love you to death. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!